Do social settings give you extreme anxiety? Do you avoid social gatherings altogether? Do you get worried you'll be humiliated or say the wrong thing? If so, you may be experiencing social anxiety. Let's talk about it today, why you may have it, and different ways to heal. So, welcome to my channel. My name is Marissa Price. I am a Black woman social worker, healer, and writer, and I help highly sensitive Black women heal from trauma to reclaim their power and authenticity. So if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Please comment below if this resonates with you. And for those of you who are here live, please introduce yourself in the chat so we can say hello to you as always. But yeah, let's talk about social anxiety. And it is World Suicide Prevention Day, so I did want to mention that too before we get into the chat. If y'all didn't know, September 10th, I think Danny posted about this on Instagram, so thank you, Danny, for letting me know about this. But yeah, please introduce yourselves in the chat as you're joining, and then we'll get into the discussion today. So I'll just start with what is social anxiety, right? So we'll be talking about today, it's just like general social anxiety. It's not the actual disorder, which a licensed therapist would diagnose you with, but just general symptoms that you may be experiencing if you do have social anxiety, which I'll be talking about today, just based on my lived experience first. And then my knowledge as a social worker. So yeah, this we'll be sharing today. Hey, boss lady. Hey, welcome. Thank you for joining and saying hello. But yeah, social anxiety. So if you experience fear and extreme anxiety in social settings, this may be you. The fear of saying something wrong, being judged, being ridiculed, being embarrassed. You may fear saying the wrong thing. You may avoid social situations altogether in extreme cases. This may disrupt your life in daily activities, right? So this is something that a lot of us experience, including me, which is how I came across this topic in the first place, right? As I'm on my healing journey, learning what I'm experiencing, social anxiety has plagued my life for as long as I can remember, right? And I'll get into some of the reasons for that I've discovered along the way. Hey, Cosmic Sunflower, welcome. Disco B, love and blessings from H-Town. Hey, good to see you. Sai Mo, hello, welcome. Shanna, hi. Good to see y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here. Reggie Sweat, hey, welcome. Thank you for joining. Yeah, so social anxiety, right? And I would love if you feel comfortable just sharing your experiences with social anxiety. Like I said, for me, this started, it's been as long as I can remember, right? From elementary school, I can remember having social anxiety. And I did a video on my channel about being a Black girl in white schools. A lot of that stems from those experiences, right? So what types of environments are we in that are creating these symptoms within us? But now as adults who are now out of that situation, we're still in a lot of these thought patterns and things that we have experienced along the way that we hadn't had a chance to heal from, right? Hey, Tree CB, good to see you. Good evening. Very good topic today. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think for a lot of us, right, there's still shame and stigma around saying, no, I have social anxiety, right? Even when we think about the strong Black woman trope, we're supposed to have it all together all the time. We're supposed to be able to go out, do all these things. It's what if inside it's terrifying to you, right? And this is part of reclaiming our humanity. We can have anxiety in social situations, right? That's part of being human and part of being in environments that were harsh, especially for those of us who are sensitive, like myself, right? The treatment that we experience externally, we have a tendency to internalize what we experience as something's wrong with us when we're in social situations. And that may lead us to avoid them altogether. If we've experienced harsh treatment, bullying, which I'm going to get into, how that creates symptoms of social anxiety, right? You don't want to enter into new environments because you remember what happened in the past. That's important to remember. These things are actually rooted in our real experiences. They just don't come out of nowhere. We don't have social anxiety for no reason. These are rooted in something that you experienced along the way, and you're still operating in that same thought pattern, right? Even about yourself, things that people have said about you. So how can you begin to externalize what you experienced, right? And remove that shame that you may be carrying that's now preventing you from doing what you want to do when it comes to social situations. Yeah. Shannon says, I can't remember when it started. Right? Right. It's been a while. That's how long it's been with me. Me too. Yep. Me too. Yep. Yeah. Even thinking back to kindergarten, right? And even before, I can remember and recall like some of the symptoms I'm going to go over. Having these at such a young age. Again, being in harsh environments that are not conducive, since like especially to like sensitive people, right? Where we're expected to, even like thinking about like class presentations, we're expected to be extroverts a lot, those of us who are introverts. And how does that, being forced to be in these roles that are not natural to us, maybe not natural to our personality, and then bullying on top of that, that's going to create symptoms of social anxiety going forward, right? So to take that off of yourself, you were in these environments, these settings along the way that led you to develop these symptoms. Yeah, I think that's important. Cosmic Sunflower says, I first remember, yeah, really struggling in middle school. Ooh, middle school. After bullying experiences. Yes, the shame is so real. It is. It is. Y'all, middle school was rough. I don't know if any of y'all, Cosmic Sunflower, but any of y'all can relate to middle school being like one of the worst, knock on wood, right? The worst times of my life. Being in that age of like, I think it was like 12 to 14. Bullying was very intense for me during that period, right? And even looking back about like now being an adult, being able to connect the dots. Why am I afraid to talk to people sometimes? Go out to social situations. A lot of that stems from what I experienced in middle school because the bullying was so harsh, right? And that's the case for a lot of us because we're in that development stage, just like after childhood, right? These artificial things after childhood, kind of in before becoming a teenager, adult. It's a really awkward time for a lot of us. And this is when a lot of the bullying occurs that impacts us in adulthood. So thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah. Hey, Carol, welcome. Welcome. Mara, welcome. It's always good to see you here. Welcome. Carol says, yes, and all the times when I've been put in my place. Woo. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that. That's true. That's very true. Yeah. Simo says, I first noticed it in college. Okay, but now I know it's probably as early as elementary school. Yeah. Yeah. And that's interesting, right? As we have the language to now be able to reflect back on the things we've experienced throughout our lives that we didn't have the words for before. Because again, it's like the treatment that we experience very early on is normalized. It's like, of course, people are going to make fun of you, demean you, right? Make fun of your appearance, things that you can't change. Well, then what effect does that have on us in adulthood when we're trying to enter into new social situations and we're still carrying the trauma of these past experiences that cannot be overlooked? Yeah. Mara says, I remember when I started my first retail job, my hand, was shaking behind the register. I hate being watched. Mara, thank you for sharing that. I had a similar experience. I worked at JCPenney and I had a hawk for a manager who would watch everything that I did so closely. And that's what I'm going to get into too. Like the things that we experience in our external environment, people watching us, surveillance, right? So closely. How does that create feelings of social anxiety? Naturally. Right? So thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I can relate to that too. Yeah. Right? Hawk managers that just watch everything that you do. I hate that too. Yeah. Min XOXO, hello. Says middle school was so rough. I remember how outgoing and outspoken I was as a kid. Then the bullying, people pleasing, and shame came in. Yeah, that's very true. I can relate to that too. And then feeling so much shame and fawning because my main way of dealing with it during school, you can't exactly flee. So that's a great point. You can't flee. You can't. And even like thinking about toxic work environments as I begin to like unpack the roots, right? We're in these situations, these school settings that, like you said, you can't flee. You can't leave. Like you have to be in school. And if you're being traumatized, if you're being bullied day after day, what is that setting you up for in adulthood? Now it becomes normalized, right? When everything within you, because I can remember being in middle school, everything within me is like, this is not right. I need to leave. But I couldn't. And so that like creates a thought pattern in our brains, right? That we have to stay in situations that are harming us versus leaving. Yeah, that's important. Yes, middle school was rough. Yeah. I remember as everyone around me was growing up, dating, wearing name brand clothes, conversations with girlfriends turned into talking about boys. Yeah. Yeah. I was still a child. I didn't understand. Yeah. Middle school was just, whew. I can probably do a whole video on that because that was such a rough time for me. Like I said, with bullying, with cliques, with standing out, going to predominantly white schools, being targeted, right, left and right, that left a lasting mark on my brain, right? That'll probably always be there. And so it's just like recognizing that now I have the tools as an adult to take myself out of traumatic environments that make me feel similarly to that. So the more that you can bring your awareness to what is this reminding me of? A time when I couldn't leave, right? But now I can. Now I can. Yeah. Disco B says just starting coughing and the hawk manager will leave. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah. Those managers that just like constantly hover, right? Constantly hover. I remember like folding jeans one time at JCPenney, and this particular manager was like criticizing how I was folding them as if anyone was going to pay attention to the way that the jeans were folded, right? But some of us are targeted deliberately within these types of environments, even like toxic work environments, right? We are targeted because there's a light within us, right? And oppressors can see that and they want to dim it because it makes them feel bad about themselves, right? So that's real. That's real. You too. You too. Yeah, sending everyone so much love. Yes. Nisha, hello. Micromanaged is my first job in high school. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what symptoms does that create, right? When you are being watched, being micromanaged, you have to do everything perfectly, or else you receive someone's wrath, right? What symptoms of anxiety does that create going forward? Where now you're scared that you're going to say something wrong, you're going to make a mistake. Human things, right? These are human things we're afraid of doing, afraid of being embarrassed because we have been before in these systems that do not allow us to be human. Yeah. Danielle says, I remember experiencing this in high school, being bullied so much that I'd skip classes. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. And thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah. Yeah. The school system, right? The school system. That's one of the things I have on my notes. The culture. Those of us who are from the US or the West, right? We know the culture is very harsh. It's very inhuman. It is built on power. And how can we get power from people, right? How can we extract that from people at every turn, which creates a culture of bullying? And we see the way that, I mean, even thinking about how the US specifically like operates around the world. How is this now mirrored in individual settings, such as school settings, where now we want to take power from people who we view as beneath us in the social hierarchy? And those of us who have experienced the effects of that, now we have social anxiety going into new settings that may not require it, but our brains have been traumatized, our bodies have been traumatized. And so we're still carrying that with us. Yeah. Min XOXO says, yes, even the way I was doing my hair, I didn't have a perm and wanted one so badly so I could be more grown up. Yeah. 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 I can so relate to that. I started straightening my hair in middle school, right? Because I wanted to fit in with the white girls. And that was just like a spiral, right? Of trying to shape myself, shape shift to fit in, especially during that age, right? That's all we want a lot, is to fit in with other people. But how does that create like feelings of inadequacy within us when that pressure is on us to fit in, to conform? Yeah. Yeah. Mara says, yes, always had to wear name brand clothes in middle school. I got teased for wearing high waters. I can laugh now, but child, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's hurtful. Right? It's hurtful. Like you can laugh like at it now, like you said, but yeah, going through that, that's not a small thing. That's not a small thing, and it has a lasting impact. Yeah. Yeah. All right, child. Let me get to my notes. All right. So social anxiety. So first, what is social anxiety? Um, Symptoms, right? Fear of situations in which you may be judged negatively, worrying about or embarrassing or humiliating yourself, an intense fear of interacting or talking with strangers, fear that others will notice that you look anxious, avoidance of doing things or speaking to people out of fear of embarrassment, avoidance of situations where you might be the center of attention, intense fear or anxiety during social situations, analysis of your performance and identification of flaws in your interactions after a social situation. Now, this reminded me of performance reviews at jobs, things that we have to go through that are required, right? People analyzing our performance, like as Mara said, managers being hawks, right? Watching what we do so intensely. How does this create feelings of social anxiety, right? These are not small things. And in environments where we can't be human, we can't be our full authentic selves, we can't make mistakes. That leaves us fearful that in the next situation, we can't make a mistake, even if it's not the same. Even if it's not the same. Yeah. Shaughnessy Sachet, thank you so much. This is such an important topic. Thank you. I agree. I agree. And I wish more people had talked about this, right? Especially Black women had talked about this as I was growing up so that I could see that I wasn't the only one. Because it can feel very isolating when everyone's like, you think that no one else has social anxiety and you're the only one that's freaking out inside in social situations, just being open, like, no, me too, right? I have severe social anxiety and something I'm working through. Yeah. Cosmic Sunflower says, yes, so much performative anti-bullying. Oh, yes. Awareness aid in the school system. Yes. That's true. That's true. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. Haley, hey, Haley. Yes, I was a big people pleaser along with social anxiety and had no voice when somebody did something bad to me. I couldn't say anything. I was too scared of conflict. Yeah. 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 I can so relate to that. Yeah. The fear of speaking up for yourself, right? When you're in situations where you can't, again, be your full self, say things incorrectly, right? What does that create? A lot of these tendencies that we have as adults are rooted in our past experiences, and then they're reinforced by oppressive environments that tell us we can't speak up, right? That tell us that we have to have our performance evaluated by someone who's in authority, right? Who deem themselves as being the authority. That's a whole other conversation. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Carol says, in apartheid South Africa, my Afro hair was constantly weaponized against me. That is really infuriating. And thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, in like the pieces of our appearance, right? Which is one of the things. If you have a piece of your appearance that makes you stand out, well, we live in an anti-Black society, right? So that has to be said. The intersectional oppression that Black women face has to be said, right? And how is this leading to social anxiety in social settings now? So those cannot be like taken apart as Western mental health settings try to do so often, individualize a systemic issue. Yeah. Hey, pretty brown eyes, good. I mean, good to see you. Yes, welcome, welcome. How can one overcome this? I'm going to get into that in my notes. Yes, thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. Yes. Okay. All right, so you may avoid these situations, right? Interacting with unfamiliar people or strangers, attending parties or social gatherings, going to work or school, starting conversations, making eye contact. This is a big one for me. Dating, entering a room in which people are already seated, returning items to a store, eating in front of others, using a public restroom. Right? So you may avoid these things if you are dealing with social anxiety. And let me know if any of these sound familiar. Other physical symptoms: sweating, trembling, nausea, dizziness, lightheadedness, feeling of your mind going blank, muscle tension, upset stomach, quickened heartbeat, shortness of breath. Right? So this is impacting our bodies too. It's not just in our minds, something that we're experiencing, but our bodies are feeling the impacts of this too. Yeah. Yeah. Shanna says, my anxiety is so bad I would avoid looking at feedback. Yeah, on my work and my grade throughout the year in college. Sometimes I wonder how I passed. I avoided that like the plague. Yeah. Yeah. In grades, the anxiety that grades creates, right? Again, constantly being evaluated for your performance kind of like steals the joy out of everything that we could be interested in, right? And creates anxiety going into new environments. We're worried about being judged, right? Humiliated, embarrassed, because again, that has happened to a lot of us in the past, in the school system, right? In settings growing up. When did you experience this before? And now it's coming back to the forefront. You're in a familiar environment that's now like, oh, your body remembers this, right? Where you were not safe before. Yeah. Pretty Brown Eyes says, oh man, I had that bad. I never knew that was social anxiety. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And this is something I've just learned, right? Being in graduate school for social work and then like reflecting on my own experiences over the past like 5 years, 4 or 5 years. Like, wow, how long I've had social anxiety and didn't even know it. I just thought it was normal. Yeah. Simo says, I get cold and shake, start yawning, very uncomfortable. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, trembling is a big one for me too, right? My hands will start shaking. I'll start sweating, right? In social situations, again, where I fear being embarrassed, humiliated. And again, especially being abroad now in Mexico, reflecting on my experiences in the US, how many people actually made fun of me and not seeing that here, right? There's a huge contrast. The US is a mean place, right? It's a mean society. I just had to be honest about that. And there are so many instances where we bully each other to try to get power. And so this creates lasting impacts throughout our lives. And it's important to recognize too that not every place functions like this, where we're experiencing these harsh, extreme levels of childhood bullying from such a young age. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, same, except I get tired too. I think I'm her youngest viewer. I'm 13. Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. That makes me so happy. Thank you, Haley, for watching. I'm honored that you're watching me at 13. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Yeah, and I wish I would have had knowledge like this, especially at that age, at 13. Woo, that was a rough age. That was a rough age for me. So even being able to recognize what I was experiencing at the time, right? It's social anxiety. Because I'm in these environments that don't allow me to be my full self, that make fun of me, right? Because of my appearance, that call out mistakes that I make. I've had teachers, as I've said in the past, literally call me out for mistakes in elementary school in front of everyone. And how many of us have had a similar experience to that, right? The education system is not a gentle way of learning. It's not. It's a lot of embarrassment, right? Putting people on stage to ridicule them, to judge them harshly. right? And it's an environment that we can't leave as children. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty Brown Eyes says, I think it started after being in a performing arts school. As I got in higher grades, I had to perform in front of lots of people and hoped I looked my best. Are now weird. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the constant pressure to be, yeah, to perform. I think that's it. To perform. How does that create feelings of social anxiety when it's not like we just want to see you, we're here to celebrate you, right? In anything that you provide us with. It's like, no, I'm going to critique you very harshly. I'm going to point out things that you did wrong because that's often how school feels, right? It's kind of like it wants to take you down a notch. That's how it often felt for me. It did not feel supportive. Let me encourage you, right? Point out the things that you did right, uplift you. It felt very much like, no, I need you to come down a level, right? And then what impacts does that have later on in life, where we're now taking ourselves down a level inside? We've become our own bully, right? And that creates, yeah, a lot of issues. Yeah, Haley, we're so glad you're here. We're so glad you're here. Thank you. Danielle says yes, third grade. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. And that's one of the things I emphasize, right? The more that you can tell yourself what you've been through, because a lot of us will get past 18. And again, the messaging of society is just like, forget everything that happened before 18. You're a new person. Well, no, that's not true. That's absolutely not true. What things did you experience before that time that are now impacting you in adulthood? Right? Did teachers call you out? Did family members call you out? Did they point out mistakes that you made? And I'm gonna get into like parenting, right? Harsh parenting styles. How is that impacting us and giving us symptoms of social anxiety later in life? So yeah. Yes. Rabia, good to see you. Good to see you here as always. Yes. Yes. Hey Danny, good to see you. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Yes. Oh, thank you for that. This channel is so healing. Thank you for cultivating the space for us. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for that. Thank you for that affirmation. Yeah. Indy Chica says, thank you for doing this live. You're welcome. I quoted you in, oh, wow. Wow. In my IG post the other day regarding this very topic, you're a flower in the wrong soil. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Much appreciated. I'm honored. I'm honored. Yes. All right. So why do you have social anxiety? Genetics may be a factor. It may be learned behavior. Do you have a family history of other people experiencing social anxiety? And then you develop those behaviors because you saw them modeled to you. This is the case for me, right? Combing through the people who are around you, your caregivers. Were they overly anxious? And now you've developed this type of behavior in everyday life. Bringing your awareness to these things is pivotal to begin healing. Where did you pick this up along the way? Because again, we don't come here having social anxiety. So you had to pick it up along the way. So getting clear about that, right? Coral says, Coral Neon, hello. High school and workplace clicks. Yeah, having to worry about fitting in. That, clicks. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you for the hearts. Yeah, so family history, learned behavior. The people who modeled this type of behavior around you. Were you in a harsh environment growing up? Were you a victim of childhood bullying? Did people stare at you? Did people criticize you? Did people laugh at you? And now you may have low self-esteem because of these experiences, right? Creating even more social anxiety. So that's something to ask too. Absolutely. And I do want to say self-promotion time, but if you are looking for help healing from social anxiety, I do offer one-on-one healing sessions that you can book with me here. I would love to work with you. As a trained social worker And also someone who has social anxiety myself, right? As a Black woman, navigating these experiences myself. I would love to help you work through that if you're on that journey. Yes. Okay. Other forms of childhood trauma, right? So parenting, again, highly critical parenting can cause symptoms of social anxiety. Anxious parenting, where your parents overly worried about things that were going to happen to you, right? And you may have adopted these behaviors yourself. Overprotection, right? Even childhood abuse could be a cause of social anxiety. Were you isolated socially growing up from other kids, from other people around you? And now you have difficulty in social interactions because you're not used to it. It's not familiar. That could be a thing too. Yeah. Secret says, have you ever done a video explaining your background? I have not. Curious if you have a Black mom and a white dad. I do not know, but regardless, you are not the stereotypical light skin girl. That made me chuckle. Thank you. I really do not mean to be rude. No. I get exactly what you mean. No. And thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love your channel and everything you stand for. I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. Yes. Min XOXO says, dealing with workplace cliques is exhausting. Yeah, I have a target on my back from the queen bee my first month. This week is my 2-year mark. IDK, how I made it. Yeah, so easy to become comfortable and fawn. Yeah. Fawning. Fawning is a huge trauma response. When we are in environments, especially when we cannot leave, right? So we can't run, especially in school, right? And that translates to workplace experiences, feeling like we can't leave, even though we can. We have the agency to. But a lot of the times we're still stuck in those patterns that we developed in childhood, right? So fawning is a huge trauma response. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. And I'm sorry that you're experiencing that in the workplace too, because that's unacceptable. Yeah. Workplace cliques, school cliques, right? How many of us feel like we don't fit in? I did a video about that on my channel, right? Never fitting in, no matter how hard I try. Because I've always been like this sensitive girl, right? Trying to fit into this very harsh environment all around me, and it never worked. And so now I'm at the point I just have to lean into my sensitivity, right? Because this is learning, it's a gift. It's a gift. The thing that I have been made fun of like over and over again throughout my life, right? Really leaning into that. Because those are the things that are magic about you if you really lean into those gifts. A lot of the times in societies that try to make us into robots, right? Those gifts are not appreciated. And so instead we are pointed out. Again, we're stared at, criticized, laughed at. And it's really us taking back our power and being like, no, I'm actually going to embrace this. Now that I'm an adult, I'm out of that environment. I'm actually going a different route. Yeah. I feel like a lot of us are at that stage, right? Realizing what happened to us early on. Again, bringing your awareness to that. Because if you're just operating in your day-to-day, maybe experiencing social anxiety, but you're not aware of it. You're not aware of the roots of that. You may be criticizing yourself for not being able to show up like you want to in social situations, right? But what happened to you? Leaning into self-compassion, what happened to you along the way? Then now you're having difficulty showing up authentically in social spaces because you've been embarrassed, you've been humiliated. People have done this to you before, which is egregious. That you were pointed out, right? And now you're having to deal with the symptoms of social anxiety. So self-compassion is in order. Giving yourself grace if you can't show up to every social function. You have to sit out, right? Really checking in with yourself. Can I do this today? Or is this triggering a past wound and I need to tend to myself? Yeah. Secret says, I'm glad you did not take, no. What I said is rude. No, I get exactly what you mean. Believe me. It is interesting to meet a light-skinned woman who understands this so deeply. Thank you for that comment. Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. Believe me, I get it. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Shannon says, high sensitivity really is a gift. Yeah, it took me a while into my adulthood to realize that. Yeah, me too. Shout out to Alicia Renice. Her song changed my life. If you haven't heard it, Sensitive. And I'll link her channel here. But yeah, being told all my life, like, why are you so sensitive? Because I am. Because I am. And just like really embracing that, right? Because that is a gift, because not everyone can feel so deeply. So the fact that you can is a gift that should be cherished. Yeah, absolutely. Libra says, hey, I found it difficult to heal my anxiety because I don't remember a lot of what caused it. Yes, yes. I wonder if I've been dissociating throughout the years. 100%. I can say that for myself. So that may be the case for you as well. Yeah. To get through. Again, to survive harsh environments, what did you have to do? A lot of us have had to dissociate, even talking about toxic workplaces, right? A lot of us are going day to day in survival mode because we can't show up authentically in these spaces, right? The lie that they tell us, right, especially for Black women, bring your 100% authentic self to work. Come on. No, that's not true. That's not true. And so we're having to dissociate from these very harmful environments. And that impacts our memory too, like you said, because you don't remember a lot of what caused it. Me too. And just being in the space where I've had to time to journal, right, to reflect on what I went through in the past. And I do have a digital workbook too, if you are looking to comb through some of those memories, because that's important to bring your awareness to what's the root. What did you experience early on? Were you bullied? Did you have a family member say something to you that you're now still carrying and you're telling yourself it inside over and over, right? It's like a feedback loop. This is important to be aware of because then you can start breaking those mental chains, right? No longer am I going to talk to myself as if someone talked to me before that didn't value me, that didn't see me as worthy, that wanted to take me down a notch, who was dealing with their own insecurities. You can begin to replace those thoughts, those sayings that people told you with your own, because that's not your voice. That's not your voice. No, we don't come here criticizing ourselves. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you for that. She is, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. Coral says yes to giving grace to self. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. We have to. We have to because we survived, right? That has to be underscored. Everything that you went through that caused symptoms of social anxiety, you survived. You made it to the other side. And now it's just a point of understanding how it's still impacting you, those things that you went through. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Rabia says some parents, guardians deny the existence of anxiety. Yes, that's important, which can make it worse. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. If you were in that environment where people, right, you brought it up like I'm feeling a certain type of way, there was no room for your feelings. How might you, right, be denying those feelings to yourself now as an adult? I can't be anxious. I can't not want to go to this because I'm shaking, right? I'm sweating, and not saying that you don't have to go if you're doing these things, right? But if you're feeling like too overwhelmed to enter into a social setting with these symptoms that you're experiencing, you have the agency to say, no, I can't do it today. And that doesn't mean anything about you. Taking that off yourself too, right? Yeah, that's important. Yeah, I agree. Sensitivity and empathy are definitely gifts. Goes over a lot of people's heads and hearts. 100%. 100%. Yep. Yeah. Yep. It is a gift. It is. Yep. And it's so funny as I have been coaching, right? Realizing that other highly sensitive folks are attracted to what I'm saying, just because I'm really teaching myself. All these videos are a series of lessons that I'm teaching myself. Why I have social anxiety, right? Combing back through my childhood, everything that I went through, and then sharing it. And then other people who can relate to you are attracted to your messages as well. So that's kind of interesting to see that. Yeah. 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 Haley says, for parenting, I learned to be obedient to authority. Yeah. And people I saw as superior. Hold on one second. Let me scroll up. Fear consequences if I didn't do what they said. I never learned to stand up for myself. Yeah. Yeah. And I think grace is so important in that. And also recognizing the environment that you were in. Right? Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Were there consequences, right, for standing up for yourself? That fear, that fear is very intense, especially during those formative years of our lives. And we can continue that pattern internally if we're not aware of it. Criticizing ourselves, right? Yep. Not allowing ourselves time and space to be human and to have an off day and to say something wrong. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Libra says, yep, I did a virtual grand opening. Oh, first of all, congratulations for my new business last week. My mother said you had no reason to be nervous. You knew everyone that was there. My anxiety is always dismissed and shamed. I'm sorry. Yeah. Mm-hmm. A grand opening for a business can cause anxiety, absolutely. And you had every reason to be nervous, right? Just to validate what you were feeling here. Yes. Yeah. And I'm sorry that it's shamed. I'm sorry. I think a lot of us, the more of us who open up about the things that we're experiencing, right? We can validate ourselves, even if we have people around us who are invalidating our experiences. Just being in the space, it's like, no, all of us in here probably have social anxiety. And that also disintegrates the shame, because now it's not just you that's experiencing it, right? We're collectively experiencing it. Because again, we live in systems that create a lot of these symptoms that we're experiencing. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. All right. Other causes. The culture, like I said, of the US, if you're from the US, of the Western world, a very mean culture, obsessed with power. Bullying is common. Oppression, right? Individualizing everything so that there's not a collective support or encouragement of each other. It's like we're all just individual people having individual experiences. No. But that's the messaging. That's the messaging growing up, especially in the US, right? Also, you may be pretending out of survival. As a survival response, you may not be being your authentic self. And how is this creating social anxiety? What if someone finds out who I really am? Right? And again, self-compassion, grace is needed here, because these are things that you had to take on, masking to survive harsh environments. Okay, so it's not like judging yourself for pretending, but it's just being aware that I'm not being my authentic self in this moment. And that may be causing some symptoms of social anxiety. Because I feel like, what if they find out, right? For me, like, I'm actually a nerd, right? And I'm not this like cool girl, right? Those of us who, shout out to the nerds out there, right? But that could be a source of bullying for a lot of us throughout childhood. And so you may be showing up into social situations now, scared that someone might find you out, because those pieces of your identity you may have taken off and hid to survive, to stay safe. Yeah. Hey, big up yourself. Yes, celebrating the original you. Yes. OMG, I just finished a live. I saw that. I got to watch that. Yes. I just finished a live discussing avoidant personality disorder and social anxiety as a feature. Wow. You're touching on interlapping points. I love that. I love that. Yes. Yes. Please subscribe to Winsome's channel. Y'all, big up yourself. Yes. I love that. I love that. Great minds. Great minds. Yeah. Yes. Shout out to the fellow nerds. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And if you lean into your authentic self in some of these oppressive, harsh environments, right? If you like to read and you tell people that, and now they're making fun of you, you're not going to want to share that in another situation necessarily, because you still have that memory of that. How can you go back, process that, become aware of that it's impacting you, process that, and then move forward, right? In environments that actually support and uplift the fact that you like to read. Taking yourself out of that environment, the environment that seems so familiar to what you left and what you survived, into one that is supportive, that is encouraging, that is uplifting of your authentic self to heal from social anxiety. Yeah. Oh, thank you, SP. Marissa, for another live topic win. Oh, thank you. You always have such relevant topics. I'm not alone. I appreciate that. No, you're not alone. You're not alone. Me too. Me too. Yeah. Great minds. Great minds. Yes. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Teacher, yes. Teacher Jasmine B. Now, yes. Now I feel like I can't leave the house without wearing glasses that I don't need just so I can hide behind it. Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. My husband doesn't understand. Yeah. 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 Ooh, that just brought up a memory of like I had this phase, again, middle school. Those of us who experienced bullying in middle school. I would wear a jacket every day to try to hide, right? So what things have we adopted to try to hide behind because of what we experienced? Bullying. Again, being called out for the way that we looked, being criticized, being laughed at. These are traumatic things. These are not just things that we can just say, that's just part of childhood. No, that's actually traumatizing because it's still impacting you. So that means that something was deep within you, was distressing, and you're still carrying that traumatic memory that happened to you. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yes, I bet it took so much courage to create this channel. It did. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Yeah, yeah. And it was being in the garden, Alicia Renice's community for Black women rediscovering their creativity, along with fellow sensitive Black women, right? That I'm like, okay, I can do this and I don't have to show up and look like anybody else. I can be sensitive. I can say I have social anxiety and I have a YouTube channel. So that's just like proof that it doesn't have to hold you back from doing what you want to do, from sharing your message with the world. You can show up authentically as you, and your people will be attracted to you naturally because you're living in your authenticity. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So societal expectations, right? The expectations that we have around school, around work. How do these show up as social anxiety symptoms of having, again, to be perfect? Because that's the expectation in a lot of these environments, is to be perfect, which is not human. None of us can be perfect, right? It's an illusion that we're told that we have to aspire to. And then we beat ourselves up for not being able to get to that point when it never existed in the first place. So are you putting like expectations on yourself that are not human? Right? That you have to show up perfectly, that you can't say something wrong. Again, rooted in past experiences, but now you're telling yourself this in environments that don't necessarily require it. And it's creating symptoms of social anxiety. Now you don't want to say anything because you think you might say something wrong. Right? Now you don't want to speak up. Now you don't want to enter this environment because you think people may ostracize you, as they did when you were growing up, if you experienced childhood bullying. So everything that we're experiencing has deeper roots, and it's actually rooted in something real. We're not making this up. It's rooted in something that we have already experienced over the course of our lives. That part, Coral, no room for error. Absolutely. Yeah, I think about like a lot of these jobs that we have. Where's the room for us to have a bad day? I was just watching a video of someone who worked at a call center, right? Where's the room for you not to read the script exactly as it's laid out day to day? There is no room. You get dinged for that. And so we're trying to give ourselves grace while living in very hostile, anti-human systems and environments that don't allow us that space to be human. And so just being aware of that and giving yourself that grace. I'm operating in an anti-human system day to day, but I don't have to become my own oppressor inside, right? I can actually be a soft, safe, compassionate space for myself inside and recognize what I'm living in. Yeah. Min XOXO says, OMG, yes, the baggy clothes. Come on, you brought me back, especially after puberty. I just wanted to hide. Me too. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, to hide our bodies, right? Yeah, and I wrote an article about this on my Substack, which is linked in the description section if you want to subscribe. But yeah, growing up as a fat girl. And I'm planning on doing like a video on this as I begin to unpack the trauma, right, of fat phobia in my life and how it's shown up. Hiding, right, being bullied constantly. And now I'm having to basically rewire my brain, right, and enter into environments that are supportive, that are encouraging, that are not judgmental like the ones that I came out of, that I survived. That's important. Yeah. Yep. Just going through the comments. Thank y'all so much for sharing your stories. I go back and read the live chat after the live. Yes. Ro Renee says, interesting how other people attempt to try to tell us that we have no reason to feel a certain way. I want to release that. That's real. That is real. Yeah. And it's becoming your own advocate internally, right? No matter what anyone is saying, you have to hold tight to your reality. This is actually what I'm experiencing. I am anxious, and I have every right to feel that way. I can't show up to the social setting, and that doesn't mean anything about me, right? If someone has criticized you, well, why can't you? Because I don't have it today. And it's really being that advocate for yourself internally. Yeah. Oh, wow. Thank you. I'm so glad the space exists. This is the best safe space I've seen this far on YouTube. Shanna, that means a lot to me. Thank you. Yeah, because that's what I wanted to be when I created it. Again, documenting my healing journey from a toxic job, which I'm still on, and just sharing my authentic journey and showing up as myself, which is probably, it's probably the first time in my life that I've had the opportunity to do that. So if you're looking to start a YouTube channel, if this is your thing, if you're recovering from social anxiety, if you're healing, and that's one of the ways to heal that I have down, flooding. YouTube has been a flooding exercise, and this just means facing or being in the thing that scares you over and over again so that the fear around it starts to disintegrate, right? As I'm showing up here on live, as I'm making mistakes with what I'm saying, as I'm like learning to not be critical of myself. This is a learning exercise. It's a flooding exercise, right? Because I'm consistently showing up here and I'm telling myself that the world's not going to fall apart if I say something wrong, which is a fear that a lot of us have, right? That people won't go away. Abandonment wound is something that I have written down too that may cause social anxiety. We fear that people will abandon us if we are our authentic selves. And so how can you get into something if you're at that point, such as YouTube, such as sharing your authentic journey with people who then resonate and can share their experiences with you as we collectively heal? Right? How can you get to that point of showing up to things that scare you? If you're at that point, again, little by little over time, flooding. And then over time, it starts to be a little less scary. And less scary, and less scary, and less scary. to the point where you've now eliminated that fear of saying something wrong because you've said something wrong. And people didn't leave. The world didn't fall apart. You were able to continue going, to wake up the next day, to try again. So yeah, YouTube has been so incredibly beneficial in my own healing journey from social anxiety. And just y'all supporting me here. Thank you. Thank you. I don't take that for granted at all. Yeah. What's up says, wow, I'm anxious and I have every right to be. So freeing. Yes. Yep. Yes. I don't have to be my own oppressor. Nope. Absolutely not. No. And the more that we can, again, healing, right? Understanding the internal monologue that you have. Can you write it out, the things that you're saying to yourself? Can you take a voice note? Right? I made a mistake saying this, and now I'm telling myself that I'm not worthy, right? That I don't deserve to be here. Well, now that you have the awareness of that, now you can go a different route. So next time when I say something wrong, I'm actually going to go the route of telling myself, I did great, actually. I'm actually hyper-focusing on my flaws, right? Perceived flaws, and not giving myself enough credit for the wins. And I'm going to sit in and celebrate myself for actually showing up to do something that scared me and surviving it. So how can you go a different route as you begin to heal from social anxiety? Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you for this. We support you, Marissa. Thanks so much for creating this space. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you. Secrets that the world didn't fall apart. The world didn't fall apart. You said something wrong. You're still here. You're still here, right? You didn't do something perfect. And I'm going to talk about that in a different video, like perfectionism. Why you struggle with perfectionism. Again, these are lessons to myself. The environments that we're in often demand perfectionism, even though it doesn't exist because we're human beings. It still demands it from us. And then we learn to seek that or tell ourselves that internally. Again, the internal monologue. We must be perfect at it to even start. We must not say anything wrong. We're human beings. We're going to say stuff wrong. We're going to say stuff wrong. And even thinking about like the dehumanization, right? Again, living in an anti-Black world, society, not allowing us space to be human, where we do have to show up. We can't say something wrong. So it's recognizing what you're in and not internalizing that, because that's not even human. That's not even human. Yeah. Scrolling through the comments. SB says, yes, bro, channels like this, thank you, are so essential because we get the affirmations we need amongst ourselves. Only Black women know Black women issues. Yes. Yes, I so agree. Yeah. Yeah. And even being a part of the community on YouTube. I'm thinking about writing an article about that. Just like the freedom movement that we're seeing gain momentum as more Black women creators show up, share their authentic journeys. We're freeing ourselves, right, from the shame that we've been carrying around things like social anxiety, being self-critical, which was my past live that I did, right, around having student debt. Slowly, over time, actually quickly, it feels like quickly, we're disintegrating the shame, we're breaking our own chains. It's freedom. It's freedom. Yeah. Rowan says, part of the social anxiety I felt was from the internal self-talk, that I would call my nasty voice. I would speak to myself so harshly. Now I handle myself much more kindly, gently. Celebrating you, because that's not easy. As someone who is still recovering from that harsh internal voice. Replacing that with a gentle, kind voice, which you have the power to do. That's so important. And a lot of us don't even realize, right, that we have the power to replace the thoughts, the voices that we've picked up along the way, because again, that's not our voice. Now you have the power to substitute any overly harsh, critical thought that comes up as you're aware of it. Can you substitute that with one of self-compassion, with grace, with understanding, the things that you needed along the way that you didn't have? Can you give that to yourself now? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this chat is so beautiful. I got to go back and read it, y'all. Thank you. Thank you. Haley says, yes, sending love and hugs to you all. I'm so sorry for everything you've been through and are going through. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that, Haley. Yes. Love and hugs. As this is a safe space for us to share, right, what we've been through, so that, again, we can start to disintegrate the shame. Because we see that other people have been through the same things that we're going through. So clearly this is a pattern. This is a pattern in the society that we live in that's creating a lot of these conditions, a lot of these symptoms. And how can we share our experiences with one another to realize it's not us? We're not the problem. Absolutely. Thank you for the hearts, Rabia. Thank you. Yeah, Danny says, okay, yes, practicing publicly on YouTube has been a powerful way for me to conquer my fears of being seen. Me too. And let go of any feelings that I'm not enough. I love this, Danny. Please subscribe to Danny's channel, y'all. One of the ways on my list that I have to heal aromatherapy, right? To heal from social anxiety. I think that's huge. Yes. So please subscribe to Danny's channel if you're interested in alternative healing methods as a fellow social worker. Yeah, I love that. I agree. Yeah, because when you go live, right, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. And so it's a flooding exercise. Little by little, video after video, you realize the world does not fall apart if you say something wrong. That people who are for you, right, that are attracted to you, are not going to criticize you. And if they do, that's what the block button's for, which I've had to use a few times. Right? And you're also taking back your power. Now you have the power to block people who are not supportive of you. And invite in people who are encouraging, right? We don't have to agree on every single point, right? But they're encouraging you along the way. You're on this journey together. That has been extremely healing for me. And yeah, I agree, Danny. Yeah. The fear of being seen. Yep. Thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah. So how do we heal? Therapy can be helpful, right? I included resources in the description section. Medication may also be helpful as well. Also, gently challenging your existing thought patterns. So visualizing a fork in the road and going the other way. When you realize you're going down the path of criticizing yourself, of feeling like you can't say something incorrectly, that you can't be human, that you can't enter into the space as your authentic self. Can you take the other route? Because you know what that route's going to bring you, right? The symptoms that I just talked about. Sweating, trembling, nausea, dizziness, feeling like your mind's going blank, shortness of breath. This intense fear that gets even worse. And we know that self-criticism makes these symptoms even more intense. So can you take the route of self-compassion if you can't show up to a social situation? If you can't talk to that person that you're unfamiliar with that day? Can you give yourself grace? Maybe I can do it another day. Today I don't have it. And not being your internal person that's criticizing you for not being able to show up. You're your safe place inside. Right? The things that you needed to hear from a caregiver that maybe you didn't receive. Can you now give yourself those messages? Yeah. Okay. Rowanette says, my Black ministry is strong. Yes. Yes. Agreed. Thank you. Yep. Yep. And it's taking back your power. It's taking back your power. Because in those situations that you were in, you couldn't block people. A lot of us had to continue to be in environments day after day where people intentionally try to take our power from us, intentionally try to break us down. And this may have been your household. So how is this now carrying through to adulthood, creating symptoms of social anxiety? Yeah. Yes, healing. Can you bring your awareness to when you feel social anxiety pop up? Can you notice it? There are certain situations around certain people where you feel more social anxiety come up, and take note of that. Right around these gatherings, this setting, I don't feel like I can show up and be my authentic self. I'm feeling those symptoms that I just laid out. Trembling, sweating, nervousness, right? Just data for yourself as you begin to build a new path forward. Taking note of that. Journaling, recording voice notes to yourself. Avoiding substances which may exacerbate some of these symptoms, even caffeine, which is the case for me. I can't drink caffeine, right? As a person with extreme social anxiety, if I am to drink caffeine before, and I've done this before, that's how I know. Before an event, I know that my symptoms are just going to be like astronomical. So I have to tell myself I can't ingest some of these substances, and substituting that with something that I can. It's just a period over time of substituting what works for you, right? Replacing that, what works for you, with what is actually harming you. Yeah. Thank you, Danny, for that. Yes. Yes. Body scan. And I'm going to link a body scan exercise by Giovanna Maurice. If it pulls up correctly, let me see. Yes, so if you notice yourself, again, becoming anxious in certain settings, can you scan your body? As we practice re-embodiment, coming back into what we're feeling. Can you notice? Now I'm starting to hold my breath. Now I'm starting to notice the trembling. And again, this is data for yourself as you begin to realize the situations that may be triggering. And if you do have to keep re-entering these spaces, how can you protect yourself as much as possible from harm? Or can you remove yourself from that situation and seek out something that doesn't trigger these symptoms of social anxiety as much or at all? Really leaning into curiosity and exploration as you start to realize how these things are showing up in your life. I think that's important. I love that. Coral Neon says, yes, substances can play a part. Calming tea is my go-to. I love that. Adds to list. Calming tea. Thank you. Thank you. I love that. Yep. Breathing. That's on my list. Yep. Slowing down my breathing, saying to myself, I am my own safe space. And taking, magnesium supplements has helped me. Interesting. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, breath is so pivotal in this, because a lot of times when we feel those initial symptoms of social anxiety pop up, we'll start to hold our breath. Right? And again, if you were bullied as a child, if you were in traumatic environments, this is our body's way of protecting itself. Of kind of going like, you'll notice muscle tension as well. Because your body's almost like preparing for battle when you're in these situations. And you have to consciously tell yourself, it's okay. I can invite breath in back in this moment, right? I can slow down my breathing if I've noticed that it's sped up. If I've noticed my heart starting to race, Let me take a few deep breaths and remind myself that I'm okay. If I need to leave the social situation, I'm now an adult and I have the ability to remove myself. No matter how people might react, you have to preserve yourself. You have to preserve yourself. Yeah. Kroger sells a tea called Tension Tamer. Okay, thank you. It will calm me right down. Thank you for that, Litson. Appreciate that. Danielle says breath work helps me through anxiety. Yes. And let me know. I've been thinking about, I did a video a few months ago. Breathe with me. Would breath work videos be helpful? Because that's a part of my healing journey that I'm on. Again, noticing that when I become stressed, that's the first thing I do is I hold my breath. And really reminding myself I have to breathe to be well. A basic bodily function that a lot of us, we're not doing. We're not breathing deeply. We're getting just enough oxygen, right, to survive. Again, being in survival mode. But our bodies need the full deep breath to come back into our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the state our nervous system is in, when we're relaxed, when we're calm. And then we can absorb new information, right? We're not in survival mode, just like grinding ourselves like a machine. Now we can actually sit and heal when we're in that state. And breath work is pivotal in that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Breathing exercises. Thank you. Hey, Marissa. Aromatherapy has been really helpful for me. Yeah, in these moments, because I will get a sniff of like lavender in myself and it reminds me to breathe deeply. Yes. Yeah. And even like in college, that's how I got through, right? Really stressful situations. I would put, I think it was lavender, or it might have been like peppermint oil, or maybe I had both. I don't know. Like on my wrist and just reminding myself, I have to breathe, right? And sense again. Let me link Danny's channel if you're interested in aromatherapy. Please subscribe to Danny's channel. Because that's huge. As a lot of us are seeking alternative healing methods to the traditional things that we've been told, right? Therapy, medication. Some of these things don't work for us. We've tried them. And so what other alternative healing methods exist that we can try? Again, getting into the exploration phase. As you notice symptoms of social anxiety, what do you notice calms you down? And how can you invite more of that back into your life? Yep. Mindfulness techniques may be helpful. And there are so many mindfulness techniques out there. One of the things that I have found helpful is the rooting exercises. So it's like 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can taste, 2 things that you can smell. That really helps me be able to ground myself in my body and tell myself that I'm okay. Because sometimes social anxiety can create those trauma responses, right? Of feeling like there's a lion coming after us. Our body's instincts will go on overdrive because that's what it felt like in the situation that we survived in the past that created the symptoms of social anxiety. And we're still operating in that same pattern. So how can you bring your conscious awareness to what you're experiencing? Oh, thank you for this. Yeah, I find breathing exercises difficult. I often feel like I'm doing them wrong, if that makes sense. It does make sense. Yeah. And that's helpful information. Thank you. Yep. Yeah. As I'm on a journey of reclaiming my breath from toxic environments, just understanding like different breathing techniques and how I can best share those with y'all is helpful. So thank you. You're welcome, Danny. Thank you. Aromatherapy. Yep. It's key. Yep. And if you're someone who experiences the physical symptoms, I know that migraine is a huge one for me that's correlated with social anxiety. If I'm in an environment where I'm feeling anxious about showing up authentically, not saying something wrong, that leads to me having a migraine episode. And so understanding the connections between what we're experiencing in our bodies and how mentally those thought patterns are creating those physical responses is helpful too. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Marissa. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Ooh, Robbie, A Field of Flowers, Living with Social Anxiety by Alex L. That's one of my favorite authors. Thank you. Field of Flowers. I'm excited. Thank you for this suggestion. Much appreciated. Simon says, I notice I'm always holding my breath at work. Yeah, my shoulders are tense, struggling with working on that. Yeah. Yeah, I think that awareness is huge. Right? So in those moments when you notice, oh, I'm holding my breath, again, visualizing a fork in the road, you can continue holding your breath or like try something else. Invite breath in that moment and see, does your body feel different? Right? Noticing I'm holding tension in my shoulders. Okay. Can I maybe do a shoulder exercise? It doesn't have to be difficult too. I think a lot of the times healing is often presented as difficult things. It's really like the small incremental steps that you make along the way, substitutions, changes in behavior where you can make a decision to support your wellness when you notice that you're having some of these symptoms pop up. Thanks for sharing that with us. And I can relate. I can relate. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, go to the roots and break the chains. Go to the roots and break the chains. Where did you start becoming socially anxious? For a lot of us, it's in childhood. Because we were in environments that did not allow us to show up fully, authentically, we were bullied, we were ostracized, we were made fun of, we were laughed at. And now we're having to be adults, right? This made up concept and enter into social environments anew, when really that's not how that works. So can you explore the roots of why you're experiencing social anxiety now? And identify who said it, right? And tell yourself, give yourself now what you needed in that moment. When you were in that environment where people were laughing at you, criticizing you, telling you you couldn't make a mistake. How can you now be your own strongest advocate inside? And tell yourself, yeah, I'm human. I actually can make a mistake. I actually can. And the world's not going to fall apart. And recognizing, are there people who are re-emphasizing something that you're trying to let go? And maybe you need to put a boundary between you and that person for your healing. Yeah. Yeah, she is amazing. She is. Yes. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yes, Ashlyn says a big part of social anxiety while Black comes from not being accepted by others in the community. Yeah. I got bullied as a young adolescent from classmates. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. And that's real. That is real. Right? I can only speak from my experience of being in white environments, in white schools my entire life, in that experience. So I appreciate you sharing that because I know that's huge. That's huge. Pointing out differences in appearances, right? And things that we can't change. And what does that tell us about ourselves when people are pointing these things out about us? That something's wrong with us, that we should shrink, that we don't deserve to take up space as we are because we stand out. And how does the culture and society we're in reinforce these acts of bullying, of ostracizing people, of taking people's power away? Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ashlyn. Yeah. Ro Renee says, I love that visualization of the fork in the road. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm very visual, so that's a real tool. Yeah, that's been helpful for me too, to realize like I'm going down the path, that I know the consequences, I know the outcomes. It's going to be a continuous cycle of self-criticism inside. I'm repeating the messages that I internalized very early on, that were not there to serve me, that were actually there to break me down. Right? I know what that path is like. What if I take the other path of being gentle with myself, of telling myself I deserve to be in the space, I deserve to show up authentically. It's okay for me to stand out. That's been a huge one. Right? When you have tried so hard for your whole life to fit in, to stay safe. This is a behavior we adopt to stay safe. What would it be like if you say, it's okay if I stand out? Right? And realizing that the environments that we're in a lot of times do not allow space for that too. So I have to say that. But what if you took the different route? And just getting curious about that. What if you accepted yourself? And that's the journey I'm on too. That's the journey I'm on too. Yeah. Right. It's exhausting. I hate having to pretend to be normal all day at work. Thank you for that. Yeah. Means Nas. Yes, welcome. And yeah, it's exhausting. Masking. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Haley says you're right. It's tough being the only Black person in class. Yes. Yes, it is. It is. Yeah. It is. Yeah. Coral Neon says, yeah, having to set boundaries for people who love you and you know they mean well, but in the end, you have to do what's best for you. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And that can be the hardest thing for those of us, again, who are sensitive. We feel other people's emotions viscerally, right? And the fact that it may hurt them, but realizing that you cannot hurt yourself. And that has to be the priority. You have to preserve yourself at all cost. And that may mean putting a boundary between this person who is opening wounds that you're trying to heal, with them telling you that you can't make a mistake, right? Criticizing you heavily. Because you know the symptoms of that now that we've just went over them, right? Of social anxiety, how it may be showing up. You may have to put something between you and that person or that environment or that entity that's re-emphasizing something that you're trying to let go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Rabia says, sometimes I wonder how some of our ancestors experienced social anxiety, even though it might not have been called that. The feeling likely was there 100%. And that's something that I've been thinking a lot about, right? Even, yeah, the space that we did not have, that we still don't have, to have these conditions, right? Conditions, to have these symptoms show up. Because of the oppressive environments that we live in, literally create these conditions. Again, as we've shared tonight, being at workplaces, being at school settings where you can't make a mistake, where people call you out. And so how was that? Yeah. As you said, for our ancestors. Mm-hmm. That's important. That's an important question. Mm-hmm. So yes, other ways to heal. Remind yourself that you're in a different environment, right? You're not there anymore in that environment that harmed you, where you could not leave for a lot of us. Now you're in a different environment. Now that you have agency to leave. Practicing self-compassion and grace at every step of the way. Radical self-love, if that means removing yourself. if you're able to, from that environment completely. As you heal, right? Having radical self-love. What would self-love look like in this moment? Asking yourself that question. It means sometimes you can't show up to it. The event that you're thinking about, right? The setting, that meeting someone new, right? Just going back through the list of triggering situations, attending parties, starting conversations, making eye contact, eating in front of others, using a public restroom, right? How can you practice self-love in those moments? I can't do this today, right? Just telling yourself that. If you've gotten to the point of awareness to realize these situations are triggering to you, right? Telling yourself, I can't do it today. Maybe I'll try it again tomorrow. But that doesn't mean anything about me. It means I'm human. It means I'm experiencing social anxiety, but it doesn't mean anything about me as a person. Yes. And last one, working to develop your inner voice. Change your internal monologue. What are you telling yourself along the way that may be exacerbating some of these symptoms that you already have? Right? That you're not able to be in this environment. That you can't say something wrong. That you're going to be embarrassed. That you're going to be ridiculed. That you're going to be judged. Right? And I think there's a fine line between not gaslighting yourself. If you know that this is an environment where this has happened in the past, and you may need to set a boundary or not enter that environment anymore, versus it being an environment where this will not happen. And you also have proof of that, right? That you won't be embarrassed, that you won't be ridiculed, that you won't be judged. So having the distinction between those two. Is this something that I know when I enter into before I have been judged? And that's why I'm feeling anxious. That's different than an environment where you know you won't be judged, but you're still operating the same behavior pattern as the environment where you will be judged. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, that distinction between the two. Marissa says, yes, in addition to noticing where I don't feel safe, I have been noticing where I do feel safe and trying to create more of those environments. For example, nature is my safe place, so I bring plants with me. Marissa, I love that. You bring plants with you? I love that. Oh, I love that. Yeah, nature is a safe place for me too. And that can be an exercise as you begin your healing journey, right? For those of you who are watching. What places make you feel safe and what places don't? What places make you feel anxious and what places make you feel at ease? Starting to notice those distinctions like that as well. Because then you can start to go into more of the places where you feel you can be yourself. Because that's really the goal at the end of the day, right? We need you to be yourself. Who you came here to be. Because we need your voice. We need your unique gifts that you may have been bullied for, ostracized in the past. We need you. We need you to show up as your full authentic self. I love that. I love that. Scrolling through the chat. Self-love, self-preservation. Absolutely. Yep. Thank you for that. 100%. Shaughnessy Sachet says, sometimes I think about the ways people describe symptoms and it was probably their anxiety showing up. My nerves bad, for example. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And a lot of the clinical language, right? Even if you don't have the clinical understanding, we know how our bodies react to certain spaces. Like you said, my nerves bad. Yeah. And that's one of the things in me having a social work background, but also having a lived experience. Before I had the degree, I knew what my body was feeling right? In these situations where I was experiencing social anxiety very early on, I knew that that was not a healthy environment for me. So how can we begin to like re-tap into these signals that our bodies are giving us? And that also requires us to understand that we're living in oppressive systems that are creating these environments that do not allow us to show up as our authentic selves. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Of course. Thank you. Thank you. Marissa says, I do wonder how our ancestors dealt with this. 100%. 100%. Yeah. When there was no space to be human, there was no space to be human. Mm-hmm. To be anxious. This is giving me a lot of ideas. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Even thinking about, I'm planning a video on doing saying no, setting boundaries historically. What has happened when we've said no? Violence, often. Violence. And so a lot of the symptoms, again, my gripe with Western medicine when it comes to mental health is it is completely divorced. It does not acknowledge systemic oppression at all that create symptoms of anxiety, of things like depression. In my video, Black Girl Depression, I talk about this too. Living day to day in environments where you cannot be your full authentic self, who you were put here to be, where you're expected to be perfect, which is not human, it's not attainable. But you're met with violence, you're met with being reprimanded, ridiculed, called out. Mm-hmm. And who has the power in that situation? And who suffers? And who suffers? And just thinking about ancestral trauma. Mm-hmm. That's huge. That is huge. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And really not even being able to have mental health things that we're dealing with, right? This is a relatively new concept because we have been dehumanized in this society. So the fact that we are now exploring our brains, right? And even eugenics is coming up. We're having to tell ourselves that we are fully human. And so that means that we are experiencing mental health consequences for the environments, from the environments that we're in day to day. That no, we're not just completely unaffected by what we're dealing with as if we're robots. Again, with the roots in enslavement. We're full human beings and we're not being able to live fully authentically as we were put here to be due to living in oppressive systems. So how is that impacting us? Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah. Thank y'all. Thank y'all so much. Hey, Michelle, good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, I think that's on my notes, y'all. But I appreciate y'all being here on this Tuesday evening, wherever you are. I hope that you're making time for yourself, even if you have to carve it out. Making time for yourself, focusing on self-preservation, understanding that you are not the only one experiencing social anxiety. If you are, a lot of us are healing, understanding the roots. Yeah, and giving grace for ourselves and compassion. That whatever initially triggered these symptoms, that we're still operating in that same behavior pattern that's being reinforced in some of the environments that we're in, that we are surviving, and also nothing is wrong with us. Nothing is wrong with us. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Please rewatch the replay. But yeah, y'all. And again, if you are interested in working with me one-on-one, working with highly sensitive Black women, reclaiming our power and authenticity, But yes, you can book a session with me here at this link, and I'll also link in the chat as well. Yeah, I appreciate y'all being here. I will be going live with Katrina on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we talk about healing from childhood bullying. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. Very aligned with what we discussed tonight. Yeah, until then, you're so welcome, Marissa. I really enjoyed this discussion. I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so glad. Yes. Thank you, Danny. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you, Indy Chica. Thank you for being here. Oh, yeah. You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Thank you, Winsome. All right, y'all. Until Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, we talk about healing from childhood bullying here on my channel. I will see you then for those who can make it. Bye, y'all. Thank you for being here. Bye.